Where did you get the top?
You should have just put on down. Without walking across the property to get two in each riding. Just get a dancing. Just keep.
Not much handmade, so
So crazy.
down by the Delta.
What?
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. We're starting a few minutes late. We were going to try to stay on time.
We will in the future.
We're going to 7 o'clock sharp.
They
dropped
You
off.
lock the door, like, it'd be like the final?
It would have
Yeah.
been really quiet in here and not that engaging inside.
No.
So they dropped off everyone's receipts. So before the break, just come up and get yours if you want it. Just so you know that. Oh yeah, and the video camera. If anyone's sheepish in front of a camera, Lisa's going to be filming. So maybe well then you're out of luck. On this side of the room, you can move if you don't want to be on camera for the class. Otherwise, that's just going to be posted to the Facebook page, so people who can't come to classes from time to time can still catch up on what they missed afterwards.
I have money. I went home with mine last week. I don't know. They told me someone's going to ask for it at class. And the other one is Cindy. Oh, my God.
Cindy, this is that you?
Oh, Cindy, okay. Well, there you go. So I'll take you.
Hi. Yeah.
So,
Doing good. How are you doing?
Does anybody have any video concerns with respect to what they're saying is going to be recorded for folks who aren't here or can't make it? Do not want to appear on video. We can limit angles, I guess.
No
Yep.
one's objecting.
So generally speaking, if you're sitting sort of like towards that side, I probably won't get any of you in the camera. So this is going to be the place that people will probably sit the most, maybe, I don't know, or not. Anyway, so
Well, we can't do anything about the audio thing. We can't do anything about the audio, so that captures all I do. All right, we're going to start because it's past time for starting. This course, this topic, Cultivating Community Resilience, the second class that we had planned and we'll go ahead with, is the challenges ahead. This is kind of in the structure and theme of the overall, like 10 weeks, kind of like the downer class, a little bit, because it's all solutions-oriented, solutions-focused, this course, where we're going, what we're building, what we're going to try to do together. But within the narrative of why we're here, you know, there's sometimes negative stuff. Yeah, there's context needed. Maybe asked a really good question moments ago, which is, what are your goals for the course? Which is something we didn't really clearly articulate as a group starting off yesterday or last week, I guess. And we have some new people here. So maybe just to get started, if we could just go with, again, name and a goal that you have coming in, or something that drew you here, some reason you're here, something you want to know, something you want to be different on the other end maybe, or you know, share with the group, you know, this is an interesting kind of community school course. We've got a great diversity of people here. I'd like to hear why, and we can kind of build on that.
Do we get any more of the agendas?
Yes, we did. Did they bring it
Does
to
anyone
us?
not have
I don't have one, so I wasn't sure what the topic was this week, so.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have one either.
I couldn't find it.
And going forward, as we structure the course, we will be doing more planning ahead. But given the nature of like some of this stuff, it's not going to send folks out a bunch of resources on, you know, how crappy things are and have them deal with that at home. So we're kind of starting a little bit
I'd like to
blind. Though I know a lot of you here, you know, have some understanding of some of the challenges we have as a group. So again, just to pull it back to the nature of this course, and I guess I'll just start with my goals for this course, is an opportunity for people to get together, get to know one another better, identify the challenges we're facing as a group, and come up with really creative and fun and impactful strategies together so that we can, you know, not worry about the world that might be or the world we don't want or the things we, you know, recoil from, but to really embrace and run for something that we want individually, as families, as groups of people, or as, you know, as a small island nation in Atlantic Canada, within the context we're going to set here. So that's my goal.
That's a long goal. Can you do that short version?
My other goal, yeah, a short goal I have for this course is to learn how to teach as well. That's another
fabulous.
skill I'd like to develop, or to have these conversations. So that's a goal. Jordan,
Teachers plant seeds that grow forever.
It says right there.
thank you. That's good observations. All right, Leo, let's start with you, since we'll just go around if that's all right. Or
Was that yours?
this is putting you on the spot. If you want to pass and come back,
Okay.
we can do that.
Oh, Leo, I'm here to be here as a community, because I have these discussions one-on-one all the time, so it's good to be doing it in a group.
You take a long time to go around every time. Why am I here? I wanted, you know, I always like learning new things. I learn new things all the time.
Darcy.
I'm Becca, and I'm here because I want to see what other people are concerned about and interested in taking action on. Myself, I have a small family, and you know, I'd like to see them thrive, all of us, my extended family, my community around me as well, so I'm interested in sort of all the topics.
I'm Carla, and I'm from Montague, and I'm coming here to Charlottetown this year because I'd like to be involved in getting a group doing this and going ahead with ideas in Montague next year.
My name is Jean, and I'm really interested in community.
I'm Peggy, and I consider myself a community-minded person, so I wanted to connect with other like-minded people. And like Carla, I'm from Summerside, so I'm hoping to bring some of this information back into my community.
Phil is interested in building resilience on a community level.
I'm Carolee, and I want to experience the growth process of community resilience, because I've talked about it a lot and I've studied it a lot, and then it's like, you gotta do it, so this is it.
I'm Lindsay, and I met you guys last week, and I kind of just want to learn some stuff and be with you all.
I'm Shauna, and I guess I work in mental health and addictions, and I more and more believe that the breakdown of community is one of the prime reasons that we have such a problem in mental health and addictions. So during my day job, I work on the ground stuff, but in the rest of my life, I'd like to build a community that is more resilient for people to live and thrive in.
Maggie, I'm interested in all the topics, but I'm also hoping we can build some strategies for reaching out beyond this classroom with some of the things that we want to build.
I'm Wendy, and I wanted to learn more about the issues that are being discussed here, and also to hear people's ideas on them, and a range of ideas, and also just to see the community development, community mobilization processes that go into building resilient communities and methodologies.
Hopefully we could demonstrate it to you.
I'm Andrea, and I'm just here to listen and learn for all the same reasons.
I'm Monica. I'm really interested in the health of my community, so that's kind of what brought me here, and also my imminent infant, thinking about like helping to make their community stronger.
I'm Jen, and I'm here to see what people are interested in doing, kind of, you know, learn about some things during class, and then maybe find some other people to do things outside class.
I'm Sean. I enjoy looking at the big picture, and I'm always looking for more information to help me fill in the blanks of the big picture. And this is more of the blanks being filled in, I hope, anyway.
I'm Richard. I'm here to see if there's any ideas for community resilience.
I'm Jordan. I'm here to network with the people who will be helping build community resilience.
I'm Tamara, and I'm here because I also like to learn, but mostly because I want to know more ways I can keep contributing, and then of course meet people that kind of have the same goals and see how that all works out.
I'm Caleb from Summerside, and same as everyone else, I like to develop common ideas for the island and share them with everyone and network.
So, key themes and focus coming into that community, I guess that kind of comes in with the description, of course, but also building together something that is meaningful. And in the context of doing that, we have to understand the challenges that our communities are facing. And we've got a local focus here. But there are problems. And often when we start one of these really positive-oriented, solutions-oriented, we want to fix things, it's because people are coming together have identified things they want to fix. Challenges or things that make their community less than they want it to be. So that can kind of drag on certain groups of people. It's hard to say with this group, but often it's just to get out all at once the problems. And then we can kind of get that down and out and then focus on the solutions and carry on there, addressing those problems. And trying to find themes on the problems, because we're trying to approach things from a holistic systems perspective here. So if we can identify themes and root issues, we'll be more effective in our working together to build what we want. So we're going to start just by playing the problems game, which is just, do you want to describe?
Yeah, I can describe.
We don't want to get into details now, because I know a lot of you are really well versed in what are the challenges on this island. But just kind of bullet point issue, why is it a problem? Jordan's going to capture those, and then we'll build on that what we want, going forward. So who's got a problem?
Poverty.
Poverty.
I do it on the sheet, sure, yes?
No problem.
Poverty is a problem.
What happens if the Confederation Bridge breaks?
The Confederation Bridge breaking. Who knows if we can afford to continue to maintain that indefinitely? I don't know what the costs are going to be, but hopefully. Other problems, challenges?
Limited safe drinking water.
Limited safe drinking water. And also, let's also kind of look at, when you say that, I'm interested in hearing maybe just a couple more things about scale. Like, is that a local problem for you, global problem? Where's it?
In terms of PEI has issues in that all of our drinking water is rainfall, right? So we have what comes down. So it's going to be changed from year to year. And then there's some issues in terms of pesticides or pollutants or whatever, right? And some people that's a bigger issue. For some people, it's a fairly minor issue, right? But we have a certain limited supply. Worldwide, Canada's really rich, and some areas are going to be desperate for water very soon. Yeah.
Also, the addition of chemicals such as fluoride and chlorine into our water.
Food, nutrition, I guess, and trying to bring it back to a local scale. Yes.
Okay, local nutrition.
Be addressing the problem.
I mentioned poverty, but I think inequality, is richer in the sense that it's a growing gap between the very poorest and the richest. And that's happening within PEI as well as globally. But I think it's something that makes society less able to be a community when you have that growing divide. So inequality.
I just want to put apathy on that list. I think could probably address a few of the other problems.
And maybe despair, we just add despair.
Yeah, there's despair. Just general
It's a different
despair.
feeling, but
Yeah.
Fatigue.
I'm just gonna put
being
psychological
tired.
issues.
Yeah.
Or cynicism.
Cynicism. Yeah, for sure. I've been a terrible cynic by times. I'm going to say just general fatigue as well while we're going on with this theme. Just think about the combination of poor nutrition, lack of light this time of year, commuting to jobs on highways that's stress, or coming across the island to be here. And it's kind of hard to transportation too, yeah.
That's a big problem, transportation.
The end of the oil era might be a global problem, but that's the island.
The end of the oil era. which is kind of a big theme that we're going to unpack in this class, as it's kind of one of those underlying things that are pretty influential.
So over top of everything all the time.
Climate change. Also a theme that we'll cover in this class because it's intimately tied to the use of oil and everything.
And it's a relatively low-lying island, I would say sea level rise as a result of that.
And ocean acidification,
Yeah.
just throw the oysters in.
Yeah. Ocean acidification.
Migration, both young people leaving PEI and people moving from the rural areas into the city and following out rural communities.
Yeah. Depopulation of rural PEI, I mean, Eastern Kings, it's looking for land in Eastern Kings, but it looks kind of lonely when you're driving around up there.
Destruction of wildlife habitat?
Destruction of wildlife habitat, migration, both from rural areas to and from the island, from rural areas. And we'll see how that flows with the end of the oil era. I mean, that's going to be a whole
The other
set
part
of
of the
challenges.
migration too is the seniors that are coming back to the island, who are needing more healthcare and more resources. They've been away, now they're coming back. There's quite a lot of them.
Changing demographics.
Yeah.
It seems pretty comprehensive. I'm trying to, I mean,
I think we got a pretty good list going on.
yeah.
But I would suggest part of the problems we're not addressing, we have a very bad electoral system, because I think we need electoral reform, and we also need to really end true patronage, which means that patronage as we know it is still here, and still.
And governance is gonna be one of the things.
Governance, yeah, like, how do we
Good
be
governance.
more truly democratic and deal with these other issues?
And I think that the first thing that ties to me is apathy being a key problem. Because we need people, you know, there's governance
Systemic issues.
Yes. Another theme of this course.
But how can we can deepen democracy in local communities if we wanted to.
These are all systemic issues. These are, some of these are, and we'll dig into this, some of these are root problems, a lot of these are symptoms of other problems. You know, it's a challenge to fixate on one thing you want to fix at the expense of everything else, because you won't really get that far ahead. Because we're talking about systemic issues.
Well, I think between all the goals and the reasons people came here and all the issues that we covered, we have a pretty good idea of like what the class is coming with in terms of their own motivations and their own concerns. And a lot of what we're going to be covering in the next 8 classes after this one is going to be directly related to all the issues that we've all brought up. And tonight is really just about setting the global context for all the local issues that we have. Like what is causing, what are the external causes that are bringing us here? So Adam was going to start with economy, and I was going to move on to energy.
So
and
can we
environment.
just put one more in the list, and that would be unfettered capitalism.
Well, yeah, unfettered.
Good segue.
Yeah. And, well, I'm willing to get into a couple minutes on the economy. Just to, I don't want to keep going into all the bad stuff, but, exactly, we're looking at solutions. But looking at what the root causes are here, you know, to soil erosion, loss of organic matter, all of the negative stuff. You know, where does this come from? How does this come to be? Is it just inevitable? Did it happen by mistake? A whole series of mistakes? You know, how was this organized? How did we get here?
You're looking for a root cause?
I'm looking for root causes.
Domination.
What's that?
Domination.
Domination.
Domination of man over nature, man over man. It's all related to domination.
Domination.
So you're saying we should have been descended from bonobos instead of chimpanzees?
I'm sorry, Tanner.
Sorry, never mind.
Ancestors?
Well, not necessarily.
Any more
Yeah.
root than domination? What's the deeper
Our value
source?
Our value systems.
Value systems?
Yeah, what we consider valuable and what we consider less valuable.
I think
a lot too. A lot of people have really over the years separated themselves from nature, which is ultimately going to create a lot of these problems because, you know, you have to be kind of for everything, not just, and I just think the disconnectedness from people and the environment is a big reason why we've started doing a lot of the stuff on the planet.
Separation. You
Believe
can't have
in
domination
separate.
without
Yeah.
separation. There's got to be us and nature, or a me and you, natural, unnatural, good and bad. Like, you know, breaking things down into the constituent elements and understanding the world in isolation of everything else.
Well, I mean, I mean, you look at the big picture in terms of where it comes from and being extremely individualistic rather than collectively minded. The other thing is being materialistic rather than looking at things in more empathic ways. So, I mean, that's really the values behind it. I think individualism, materialism are the dominant things that our society is pushing, and solutions are found by going in this direction.
Values those things.
Yeah, value,
And that again goes to separation.
yeah.
Can I say maybe institutionalization? So the reliance on institutions, those systems that are created and perpetuated through
Yeah.
institutions.
And some institutions are valued at different scales, and you know, you can't cast dispersion on maybe all institutions, but there's definitely dysfunctionalities within institutions that could be as much as anything interpersonal. And then from there, once you stack all those people together.
Demographics, you know, I think Shauna made a good point, like a lot of what, there's always implications of demographics, and what we're seeing right now is a growing kind of age inequity kind of thing, as you look to the opportunity of young people in our society and older people that, you know, people my age, baby boomers, are slowed moving out of the labor force, there's limited opportunities for youth. And as some things become more difficult, there's a tendency for people who are in situations where they have to hang on to what they have. So that, for example, young people coming into jobs are doing the same work. Like, I've heard it said, the whole equal pay for equal work, the gender piece is so much less of an issue going forward than the intergenerational inequities that we're starting to see.
Absolutely. And I would argue, though, that again, we're looking at a symptom of separation and of dominance and of, you know, once you're separated and you're an isolated thing, you're afraid there's not enough to go around, and we're going to roll that right into the economy because that is a design element. You know, this environment we live in, this whole layered piece that we're describing, didn't just happen. All right. So I think, given the time available, we're going to look at separation, domination as core issues, build up from, you know, and the value that brought us here together was community. So the very opposite of some of those core issues, you know, separation, domination, injustice. So great that you're all here for community. So the separation anxiety is kind of augmented by the nature of our global economy. I'm not an economist, and we have, what, 7 minutes to, or less?
Well, you have 3, I have 4.
To cover the economy. Economics is a study, it's a science based on math and a lot of assumptions about how people interact with one another and make decisions as individuals or families, microeconomics, or societies, nation states, global citizenships in terms of macroeconomics. It's kind of a funny science based on a lot of weird assumptions about people, that people are individual rationalists looking out for their own self-interest and can make really good decisions based on the evidence available to them. So anytime you have a science based on something that wacky, there's going to be some challenges. There's a lot of principles of the science, other assumptions that, you know, make it for an interesting way to look at the human experience. But for some reason it is, you know, assumed to be a valuable tool for planning our management as a society, and it's fallen into favor in a big way. And a lot of the big decisions that drive where we're at is based on this system of, you know, economics, capitalism, money, currency.
And it has one fundamental flaw, and that's growth.
Yes.
Well, growth is
Growth
built
is-
into the system.
Growth is the only thing that economists see, it's the only thing they understand. Grow or perish, you're not growing, you're perishing, and unfettered growth is cancer, and it cannot work.
And it's not natural. Unnatural growth, you don't see in ecology really anywhere. There's always a balance to take it. And growth, the fact that we've grown so dramatically, so quickly, is in part based on our economy, which is based on growth, and it's a prerequisite for growth, because money is created as debt, interest-bearing debt. Money used to be based on resources in the ground, gold and such. You'd have a certain amount of gold, and it was a means of transaction, currency, not money, but currency. It's a means of transaction. So the amount of gold you dig out of the ground any given year would grow a certain amount, which will kind of cap the growth on a group of people when they use this thing to exchange currency. You can call me out if I'm wrong, it's quite possible on some details, but the foundations are pretty strong and not argued much by rational people. What's happening now is that money is created basically by central banks. Money used to be based on gold, so it would grow slowly, people would exchange, it would grow over time. The old Romans tried to get money easy. What happens when you create new money is that it concentrates around the people who make it. You know, the senators and the bankers and whatnot, as you conjure this stuff out. So back in Rome, what was going on was they started learning how to plate silver, you know, onto the gold. Or sorry, it was actually silver that was the currency, correction. But they were learning to plate bronze as silver. And over time, they created more and more. It was concentrated. Inflation happens as money's created. And some people have less than others, based on the distance from which this money comes. And over time, there's a progression that leads to growth, gross inequality as money's created and travels more slowly in some places than others. So again, seeing the current economic inequality as a symptom of how money's created. So Rome didn't turn out too well once everybody found out that they're carrying around copper and had faith in silver. And we're seeing similar things today. Money is created by central banks. They give it to banks effectively. And the banks lend it to us and charge us interest. All right? So you can talk about injustice, whatever. There's a lot of details on this happens. Fractional reserve banking, the money is amplified as it lends out, so it grows out even more so. But the foundation of the issue is that we have interest-bearing debt, we borrow money, so we must produce more than we got for that money in order to make up for it. We must always be growing to keep up with the debt. Because if we don't keep up with the debt, we fall off the treadmill, and then we're, screwed. And debt anxiety is a huge amount of anxiety right now. I've been there, climbing out, but, it's a challenge.
Yes.
But you always must grow and continue to produce more and more to pay that debt and continue on. And the economy is based on natural resources, turning natural resources into products, and products, and human relationships into services. That's how you grow an economy. People who can otherwise meet their needs, or meet their own, or have relationships that meet their needs, aren't contributing to growth. So to meet the need of a growing economy, more people must buy in, and it must continue to grow. And the primary driver for, how economies grow is available energy. We've always had different sources of energy. The sun, for the longest time, was the driver of energy. We harvested from gardens or from rangelands, hunted, use that energy to manage our societies. Agriculture enters in. There's a growth of ability to turn natural resources into wealth and currency, which allows for, storage of energy in the form of grain, which allows for other people who aren't farmers or gardeners. So we have the beginnings of an accumulation of resources. And energy right now, the energy that drives the whole show, and has been for quite some time, is more potent than sun stored in grain, more potent than wood. It's been in the ground. We've been building it up for 3.5 billion years.
basically.
Yeah.
All carbon-based growth that's dematerialized over time and just turned into oil. And now we're just pumping it out of the ground and burning it at rates that are way faster than it could ever be formed. So we have fossil fuel, literally, fossils, degraded into a liquid that we produce and burn. And over time, this has caused a collision course with the economic system that we have. Like, we have a capitalist system that's based on capital, private companies, borrowing from banks. That capital collects interest over time, and the only way you can pay back interest is by producing more. Fossil fuels have to be expanded, and as we can see, that's creating another collision course with our climate. I'm going to go over to my slide. Do you want to expand a little more?
No, that's good. I think.
I was going to show a 5-minute video on the history of fossil fuels, but I'm going to put that on the Facebook page because we are running a little bit behind. But if you're interested, the author of The Party's Over, a peak oil book written by Richard Heinberg, he narrated the video, and it's definitely worth a look. So just take a look on the Facebook event page if you'd like to.
Can you list the book there as well?
Oh, The Party's Over?
We'll put the resources, at the end of this class, we'll put up a page for resources to material relevant to this, if you want to dig in.
That way we can
Start building a resource.
link it to the Facebook thing,
Yes.
you know where it is.
Definitely. All right, so we don't want to have economy, environment, and energy in their own little silos. We really want to recognize that they are intertwined systems. As we've seen social progress, economic activity, and energy usage ramp up over the last 200 to 300 years especially, we've also seen an exponential incline in environmental damage. So, we've spoken of capitalism. So, one thing that our economy assumes is that all goods are interchangeable in our system. But one key ignorance of that is that energy is not just another good in our economic system. It is the basis of all economic activity. Without a reliable energy source, economic activity falters, and one thing cannot be interchanged with another in terms of energy. Like, have you ever tried putting baseball cards in a gas tank? If we do run out or have stalled activity with, in terms of fossil fuel production, then we cannot change our energy systems overnight. There has to be a substantial amount of energy expended in order to transition our region's energy system from one of fossil fuel use to one of renewable energy, one that is less dependent on fossil fuels. So, and we see examples of that in the United States in 1973, when oil prices skyrocketed to 400% of the regular prices, and there were like lineups of cars down the highway, and economic activity went to a halt, and there was an economic crisis caused by that shock in energy availability. So that's just one example of how energy availability being reduced can affect economic activity. So M. King Hubbert was a geoscientist working for Shell who in the 1940s predicted that peak oil would happen in the United States. Peak oil is the point in time in which oil production is at its highest rate, its peak, and after this point it will be in a steady decline. So on this side of the energy incline, we have high energy returns, easy to find and produce, high quality crude oil, and it's cheap because it's easy to manufacture, it's easy to purchase. And then on the other side, we have falling and decreasing energy returns. So it takes more energy to get a certain amount of energy back. We have volatile and high prices. So when energy availabilities waver, you see what happens in the United States in 1973. It's more expensive to extract. There's more pollution and higher carbon, like the tar sands, for example. And it's from less accessible places. This is why we're going to the tar sands, where you have to add many processes in between where it comes out of the ground and where you can put it in your gas tank, as opposed to 100 years ago, where it came in a very easily manipulable form, so there wouldn't be as many processes in between. Or why we have to go into the Gulf of St. Lawrence, A lot of people want to start extracting more oil from very sensitive ecological areas. Why would we do that unless all the easy to find oil and easy to manufacture was already being used up at very high rates? And it's very low quality. So, well, here's an example of the 1973. And Hubbert's curve is what this graph is called. The discoveries happen before the production, obviously, and there's a time lag between when the peak discovery hits and when the peak production hits. So he extrapolated the US's peak oil phenomena to the global scales. From the discoveries that happened in the 1940s in the US, when that peaked, he extrapolated that and found that 1970s, there would be peak oil. And people laughed at him in his geoscientist community, but then 1973 happens, and we have that curve hitting. In global production, he estimated that in the 1970s, when discoveries peaked, we would reach production peak in the mid-2000s. And some people argue against this. A lot of the experts who have been writing about peak oil since the late 90s, or even the late 80s, including Richard Heinberg, who I mentioned before, thinks that according to results from BP, Shell, Exxon, we're seeing that we've already hit peak oil in 2006, and this constant grab for other resources like natural gas, even though it has high environmental consequences, is further proof that we've already gone through peak oil and we're already reaching this form of decline. So it's all the more imperative that we find other resources on which to base our energy economy. So the most important concept when you're assessing an energy source is its energy return on energy invested. Basically, how much energy you get for how much energy you put into getting that energy source. So, you know, in the early 1800s, domestic oil, you would get 100 barrels of oil for every 1 barrel you put in. And in 2000, in 2000s, you get more like 10 barrels of oil for every barrel of oil you put in. And in the tar sands, you're lucky if you get 2 or 3. And in some cases, you get 1.5 or less. So that's a very low energy return on energy invested. We're expending so much energy to get so little back, and we're destroying the impact of climate over it and making our future existence on the planet very fragile, to say the least. So I'll move on to climate change now. So numbers, have fun. You know what? Why don't we pick this up
after break?
After break, because I already picked it 5 minutes late. So